Hi, I'm Cole. This is the pedal box for the MG GT that my dad and my brother are working on. It looks like they got some of it welded together. There's some TIG welds right here on these sides and a nice one right along in there. I don't know what this brass bushing is going to go to, but I picked up the transmission for my Volvo C70 today because I'm converting it to a manual transmission, so I'm going to take a closer look at it. This is the MG GT, so I'll take a closer look at the dash on it first. It's what it looks like from the inside. The steering column isn't mounted back in it yet, and I was kind of surprised when I came out and I saw this big hole right here. It looks like they're going to do a lot more sheet metal work than I thought they were going to. I might have done this project differently, but I don't know what they're doing with it or what their plan is. But it looks like there's quite a bit to that's going to be rebuilt back in there. And down here is all of the transmission parts. There's the shifter right there and the cables. That shifter boot's worn out, so I'm going to be putting a new shifter boot and a new shifter on it. I set out all of this hardware so that I can just take a look at it and make sure I have everything. When I picked it up today, the guy at the salvage yard pointed out that it's going to need a new axle boot right here. See how this one's starting to split apart? But there's still lots of grease down in that axle, so I'm not that worried about just putting a new boot on it. So I'm going to put two new boots on this axle and new boots on this axle. These are just, they're showing signs of their age, so I figured I might as well put new boots on it, because a set of boots is going to cost me maybe $20, and a little bit of time reconditioning this axle today or tomorrow, or a little bit of time reconditioning this axle when the boots come in will save me time in the long run, because I don't want to pull this axle out in 6 months or something. And I'll also put a coat of paint on it. Here's the pedals that I'm going to be putting in, because this has a clutch pedal. This is the starter for it, and if you look at it really closely, you can see how the teeth on that starter are a little bit worn down, and on this flywheel right here, there's a little bit of wear on a couple of the teeth. But the clutch, like this flywheel, looks really good. There's no groove right there, and it's a good looking flywheel. These aren't factory bolts either, which, it makes me think that the flywheel was replaced. This clutch is in really good shape, and look at how clean that sticker is. There's no grooves on the pressure plate either. The vehicle that this transmission came out of had 260,000 miles on it, which makes me think that there was probably an issue with the transmission, and then the transmission was taken out and freshened up, maybe some new synchros put in it, and a new clutch and pressure plate and flywheel and slave cylinder, this part right here, and throwout bearing at the same time. And then later on down the road, relatively soon to when all of that work was done, based on there not being very much dirt on this, not being very much dust on that sticker, I think that there was an engine failure. The motor that was in that Volvo, it was a 1993 Volvo 850, which was one of the first years for a new engine block in those cars. Those engine blocks, or those engines as a whole, actually can last close to over 300,000 miles. So I think that engine might have just given up a little bit early, and then when the owner tried to crank it over, these teeth on the starter got a little bit chewed up, because these teeth on the starter were trying to turn this flywheel. If the engine failed, this flywheel wouldn't be able to turn, so it would tear up those teeth. So I'm really confident with this transmission. I think that it was probably gone through before, and these other components that I mentioned were probably replaced at the same time, and then there was an engine failure. But, the Volvo engine is nice and sturdy and strong, but after 260,000 miles, it just gets weak. I'm going to have some reconditioning to do before I put this transmission in my C70. But even with the mileage on that car and the condition of these parts, I'm pretty confident that I have a good transmission that I'm putting in there. I'm ordering a Volvo Type R clutch and pressure plate. This is the this is the clutch and this is the pressure plate. I'm ordering new ones of those because this transmission came out of a car that wasn't turbocharged. My Volvo is turbocharged, so the clutch and pressure plate that I'm putting in can handle about 400 horsepower. This clutch for a naturally aspirated Volvo, it can probably only handle about 200 or 175 horsepower. So I'm going to have to get that clutch and a few other odds and ends and recondition these axles before I can start doing this tranny swap. But I have all the parts, so I'm anxious to get started on it. It's going to be so much more fun to drive it as a stick shift than it was with an automatic. You know, just being able to control those gear changes and really get on it will be a lot more fun.